Allowing yourself to feel powerless doesn't mean that you are powerless. In fact, the more willing you are to embrace the feeling of powerlessness when it shows up, the more authentic power you'll be able to access. Hi, and welcome to the Nothing Changes Until You Do series, which is inspired by the book called Nothing Changes Until You Do by Mike Robbins. Today's excerpt comes from chapter 22, which is titled Embrace Powerlessness. I've realized that in many of the areas of my life where I've struggled the most, one of the key factors has been my inability to acknowledge, feel, or embrace powerlessness. Instead, I often end up erroneously attempting to force outcomes in the name of being responsible or powerful when it really is my need to control that's driving me. The serenity prayer that we've all heard before goes, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This prayer is all about consciously embracing our own powerlessness, and there's true brilliance in its simplicity and its insight. What if we stopped obsessing about the things we think need to be fixed in our life, in others, or ourselves, especially those things that are out of our control? What if we were able to bring a deeper level of acceptance and serenity to the difficulties in our lives, instead of piling loads of judgment, pressure, expectation, and more onto them, as well as ourselves and others? It's incredibly liberating when we are able to acknowledge, feel, and express our true emotions, even the ones that we don't like, such as powerlessness. We tend to have lots of beliefs in a real hierarchy when it comes to our emotions, deciding that some are good and some are bad, when the reality is that emotions are positive when we feel and express them, and they are negative when we suppress them. We've all had lots of positive experiences in life when we've had the courage to feel and express what we judge and consider bad emotions, like fear, anger, jealousy, dread, hurt, shame, and so on. We've also had negative and painful experiences where we've withheld or suppressed what we consider good emotions, like love, excitement, passion, gratitude. Remembering that just because we feel sad doesn't mean we are sad, or just because we feel jealous doesn't mean we are jealous, is an empowering distinction. It's also important to remember that human emotions aren't sustainable. They are meant to be felt and expressed so that they can pass through us beautifully. This is why we often feel so much better after a good cry. The more conscious we are about our emotions and the more willing we are to feel and express them, the happier, healthier, and more alive we become. As I've allowed myself to embrace my own feelings of powerlessness and other emotions that are challenging for me, even though it can be a bit scary and uncomfortable, especially at first, I've experienced a deeper level of peace and power in regard to some of the most stressful circumstances in my life. Embracing powerlessness can fundamentally shift our outlook on life and liberate us from a great deal of undue and unnecessary pressure, struggle, and expectation that we put on ourselves. This was a really good chapter. I don't even think there is much for me to say afterwards. Feel the feels, let them pass through you, and I'll meet you on the other side. Have a great week.